Good morning, everybody. You know, this morning, have you ever tried to do the two-home tango or the two-step tango? Good morning, everybody. It's Jesse Paul here with the Real Estate Morning Drive. And today we're going to be talking about some options that home buyers could have when they're needing to relocate or sell one home to buy another one. And we have live in studio today, Chantry Abbott with Guild Mortgage, one of my favorite lenders in the country. I mean, here in St. George, but I think in the country, you can do loans almost anywhere, I think.
Pretty close. Yep.
Yeah. So thanks for joining us.
Of course. Anytime.
Yeah. And, you know, we were talking about, and this actually came up because you were just experiencing this. Mm-hmm. You know, you just went through a move, not across the country, but across town.
Yeah.
And experienced what a lot of our home sellers and home buyers are going through right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I threw myself into the market, so I had a good understanding of it. No, I've been seeing the trend for a long time. And the reason we came up with this catchphrase, the two-home tango, the 7 options for homeowners considering relocation, is because it's the biggest challenge right now. And I believe it's the biggest challenge right now because homeowners are still thinking that their house is worth what it was at the absolute peak, which I consider about January 2022.
Yeah.
And we've kind of been on a downward trend since then, probably of at least 10%, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. We had initially dropped, I think, from 2022 to, let's say, 2024 or mid-2023, about 15%. But then out of nowhere, we kind of rebounded. We came back about 3 or 4% last year.
Yeah.
So it's roughly 10, 11% down from the peak in 22. Yes.
And that's the heartbreaking thing, because most people, once they've got a value on their house, they're never expecting that to ever be less, because we're always taught that it's always going to go up.
Yeah. And historically it does, right? Now, it doesn't always go up, but even in a year, it might go up and then drop a little bit and go up.
Sure.
But it typically will always go in an upward trend, even though it might fluctuate between that 12-month period.
Yeah, we've talked about this in here. You can take any 10-year period in history from year 1 to year 10. And year 10, the home values were worth more than the home values in year 1.
Especially here in St. George.
No matter what. No matter what, you could try to cheat that or do whatever you want, and you give me 10 years and it's going to go up. So in the long run, it's the best thing you ever did. But just to give them a little perspective is that they set their sights on what their house is worth in 2022. They get with an agent that maybe doesn't educate them too much on the market. I guess that's kind of a plug for you guys. Is one thing when hiring a real estate professional to help you is you don't want somebody that's just an order taker. You want somebody that's going to actually go, guys, if you really want to sell this house, here's what's happening in the market. Here's the data. Here's the inventory levels. Here's what you're competing with. And to be successful in selling this house, here's where we need to price it. Mm-hmm. And the hard part is that's probably not where they thought they were going to sell it for.
Right. Let's actually talk. Can we get a little bit more specific about your home?
Yeah.
Because it's actually such a good example.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even though you were sitting on you went and paid for an appraisal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So there was empirical data to support your value.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and then you went on the market, and what happened?
Yeah. So I'll rewind 10 years ago. We built our house in Little Valley for about $500,000. Over the years, we've put, turf and things like that. But right out the gate, main frame, backyard done, pool, $500K. Fast forward to 2022, that probably was worth 1.3 to 1.4.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
So now it's time for us to relocate. We need a little bit more space. We went and moved over to Bloomington and got room for the animals. Kids are loving it. And got an appraisal it's an appraiser that you and I work with all the time.
All the time, and they're great.
He's as good as it gets.
Yeah.
This isn't just like some random guy appraised my house. So it was as good as it gets.
And this has actually nothing to do with the appraisal.
Sure.
It has to do with the temperature of the market, right?
Yeah. So it appraised for 1.34 in January of this year.
Okay.
So I have to go back and look. So I thought, let's list it at 1.299 and tell them it's below appraised value.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
Fast forward to where we're actually going to sell it at is 1.1.
Right.
And you kind of told me that in the very beginning.
I told you that. Right? Yeah, I did. I said, hey, just so you know, the market we're in. And what I love is you're actually in the business.
Yeah.
And you did what every other seller does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Thanks for the info. Yeah. No problem. That's good for everybody else, but not me.
Yeah, but my house has all this stuff.
Yeah, but my house is better, you know. And I even said right in that moment, oh, Chantry, you're doing what every other seller does. And we kind of giggled about it, laughed about it, but that actually came to pass.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and the hard part, I think, and I'm switching gears a little bit, but not really. The hard part for agents and sellers it's actually almost like the tango, right? If I'm not in perfect form and leading in the right way,
yeah,
it's really discombobulated for my dance partner.
For sure.
Right? And
feels like you're trying to drag them somewhere.
Oh, what a great point. It feels like I'm trying to drag them somewhere instead of flowing.
Correct.
Right? So when I start trying to talk to a seller about the reality of the market or the reality of their price, it feels to them like I'm slapping them in the face or I'm dragging them down the street by their hair.
Correct.
When I'm really just trying to be so honest.
Yeah.
So they don't get that punch in the gut later.
And what's really sad in yours and I's business, it's really easy for a mortgage lender to overpromise the rate that they can give a customer. And it's really easy for you guys as real estate professionals to overpromise what you think the house would sell for in order to get the business, get the house up on the market and then just drop the price. But that's not the right thing to do. Not
even to only get the business, right? But how do you actually explain, for instance, you have... I would dare say the highest trust with our opinion.
Absolutely.
And even for you, that conversation kind of went over your head.
Yeah.
Because you had held on to, no fault of your own.
Sure.
This is human nature.
Yeah.
You had an appraisal. You're like, yeah. And yet the market is still in control.
Correct.
Whoever's going to buy that house is actually in control of the price.
Yeah.
If you want to sell it.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't care, if you don't want to sell it, then maybe they're not.
Yeah.
But you'll just be sitting.
Yeah.
So let's talk. Let's go move into now. Also, some of the reason this 7 things to do.
Yeah, 7
are
options
so
for
important
considering relocation.
Is because the highest cancellation rate right now is actually people that put a home under contract. And then they went home and put their home on the market based on best case scenario.
Yes.
And they couldn't sell their home. Yep. And they bought a home based on best case scenario.
Correct.
So now they're stuck.
That's exactly right.
Right?
Yeah, you said that better than we did before off the air. Clean that up for me. Thank you. We were really disappointed, me and my wife. We thought we were going to make $200,000 more than we're going to make. But if I can just take myself out of that was never my equity. That was never my money. That was never real. We still have more than doubled what we paid for our house.
Yep.
If you would have told me 10 years ago. In 10 years, if you would have told me 10 years ago we could have more than doubled. I built a $500,000 house and I'm selling it for 1.1. I would have been like, no done. Way. Can I buy 10 of them?
Well, and you wouldn't have believed that it ever would have happened.
No way. Yeah. No chance you can even uncover that. So we've got 7 different scenarios that you could go with, but the biggest point to all of this is do not connect with an agent or even an appraiser and take best case scenario into the math of your next move.
Yeah, and what I always try is say, guys, let's imagine the worst possible scenario that this could be.
Yeah.
Can we still pull this off?
Correct. It's the way to look at it.
If the answer is no, then it's not a good idea.
Then we need to go readjust our expectations on the house we want to buy, or something needs to change.
Yeah, because we're just not in control of the price in a buyer's market.
Yeah, so we're in a buyer's market. So what that, kind of explaining that to the people, is that my house is in the, you kind of consider like 1 million to 1.3, maybe to 1.4, kind of like that's like a pocket, that's like a price range. Mm-hmm. There's over 100 homes for sale in that price range.
I'm going to tell you right now.
And there a lot of them. I'm a 10-year-old house. I got a lot of cool features, and my lot's one of a kind, and all these things that I love about my house and why we built it there. But they go look at my 10-year-old house, and they've got 20 other brand new houses they can go look at as well. Mm-hmm. So you just got it takes one buyer, and when there's that many choices, we had quite a few people look at it, and we were their second choice. Well, second place doesn't do much, it just doesn't get us anywhere. So readjust your expectations a little bit. And I think, not to make this sound like bad news if you own a home, it's like, gosh, if you think about how much homes have gone up in the last even just 5 years, is absolutely insane.
It is.
And so you're still in an incredible position. But also, when you go to buy a house, it's a buyer's market.
Yeah,
you're going to get the same benefit as you're kind of losing the benefit as a seller, but you're kind of gaining the benefit of as a buyer.
And it's that way no matter what market you're in, right?
100%.
If you're selling and buying, you're taking advantage of the market, and you're experiencing the market on the other side, right?
Yep. Yeah. December 2021, somebody sold their house. They made absolute peak, more than their home should have sold for.
Yes.
But guess what they did?
They had to go buy a home and also pay at the peak.
And they probably maybe didn't get their first choice of home.
Right.
Meaning they probably lost out on a few because it was so competitive and people were going over list price and things like that.
Right.
That's
today, really true.
Versus today, you can get the house you want. You can take your time. We just got to readjust your expectations of what your house is really going to sell for. And I think a big thing that, I'm a mortgage guy. We lean on appraisals all the time, right? Like, I'm like, oh yeah, they know what they're talking about. That's value. But I think right now you got to look at what's your competition. If you're putting your house up for sale, maybe one of the number one things that an agent should do, or at least this is my thought, is, okay, let's look at the market and let's look at what homes are going to be competing with yours. So if you envision the same buyer that, like for me, same buyer that wants to be in the 1 million to 1.3 range, they want to be in Little Valley. I've got a casita, I've got a pool.
Right.
So you take all of them that would want something like that, and then you go, okay, what are we competing against here?
Right. That's the best way to do it, right? We cannot look at the past. Now we need to make sure we can actually appraise, but what are we actually competing with? Because here's what's happening. People are putting their home on the market, and it's either selling immediately or they're spending time trying to figure out at what price. Not just can I get offers, can I actually get showings? I spoke with an agent yesterday that had 4 listings on the market. 3 of them had appraisals. Mm-hmm. They are well below appraised value, and they're not even getting showings.
Sure.
Right? So either a home is selling immediately, or they're searching for the right price.
Yeah, I believe that if I would have listed my house, so I'm selling it for 1.1. If I would have listed my house for 1.15, maybe it probably would have sold really quick,
and you would have got it.
And I probably would have got that because
now
I'm not the 90, 100, 120 days on market where they're like, oh, we can haggle them on price a little bit here and there.
Yeah, because after 3 weeks, buyers' mindsets change from, wow, this is a great home, to, hey, it's been on the market for a while. I wonder what's wrong with it. Or, hey, it's been on the market for a while. The seller's probably really motivated. I can get a great deal.
Yeah.
3 weeks.
Yep.
And that's true in every price range.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yep. Absolutely.
So let's, before we run out of time, let's actually talk about what are 7 options homeowners can consider doing when they're relocating.
Absolutely.
Buying one home, selling another.
Correct.
Okay. Number 1.
Number 1 is actually, you could just keep your current home as a rental property.
Okay.
I have a lot of people that want to do that because they love the idea of it. And maybe they have the resources to pull this off. And with a mortgage, we can count what they're going to rent it for so we can offset their payment. The thing that I really ask them is I say, if we had the cash and we were to go buy an investment property, would this property be the one that we would buy as an investment property?
Mm-hmm.
Typically, the answer to that is probably not.
Okay.
So another Keller Williams agent, we've got a client that they're thinking about that, but it's a $600,000 house.
Yeah.
That's going to rent for maybe $2,200. If you know anything about rent math, that's not good.
Yeah. That needs to be more like at least 3,000, right?
A minimum of 3.
Minimum, yeah.
And that's like still not amazing.
Right.
And
that's
so
still only 1%.
And so they want to keep it and they like the idea. Now, the other reason you might keep it is maybe you got a really low interest rate and your payment is just nothing and you can rent it and you can cash flow it and you don't want to cash in your money. But the one thing I tell people to be really careful with, and I've had this happen to me, is they have that 1031 exchange avoiding the taxes rule. Once you've moved out of that house for an extended period of time, if you do decide to sell it in the future, you're going to pay the government.
Yeah, because the rule there for a personal residence, right? If you have to have lived there 2 of the last 5 years.
Yeah. Yep. So 4 years down the road, I won't have lived there 2 of 5.
Right.
And so then if I tried to sell it at that point,
you face capital
I might sell it for more, maybe, who knows, but I would face more capital gains than I would ever want to deal with.
That's true.
So that's something to think about. So number one, you can always rent your current home, but ask yourself, is this the rental property I would buy?
Right. Okay. So number 2 is writing a contingent offer. Like, okay, this offer is based on me selling my home. So it's, going under contract and then putting my home on the market. One of the biggest challenges with that is you lose all other negotiating power.
Absolutely.
Because the only thing that's important is to the seller now is you have a home to sell and it's not on the market and it's not under contract.
Yeah. When you make an offer on a house, there's 2 things: price that you're willing to pay and terms. Terms can be how long you need to close. Do we have a house to sell? Do we need closing costs? If your terms are really bad, your price has to be really high.
Right.
So that's the hard part about making this contingent offer. And
so true.
And it starts to get quite stressful because you've got this house you love. You want to buy it, but you can't get yours sold. Yeah. And if you drop it too low, then you're going to be disappointed with the numbers.
Yeah.
But it is an option. Okay. We do have people that have successfully done it.
A lot of people, right? Because there's a big fear in selling your home before you have one in your contract.
Yep.
It's a real fear that people have.
Absolutely.
Okay. Number 3.
Number 3 is sell your home first, then buy another home.
Okay.
Maybe we haven't closed, but we've gone under contract to buy. And isn't there you put your house up for sale, you get it under contract to sell it. Now we really know the math on where you're going to buy at, what price range.
Right.
Most people are afraid that if they do that, they're not going to find a house. But there is a clause you can put into the contract, correct?
Yeah, and there is. That it's seller to find suitable housing. And if they don't, then this contract would cancel. So that's becoming a lot easier now because there's a lot more properties on the market. 3 years ago, that was a real fear because there was so little on the market that maybe you wouldn't find one.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 4, qualify for both homes and down payment. No bridge loan fees, making it affordable, but this comes with the risk. This is the 2-home tango, right? You just went through it.
Yeah.
You purchased and then sold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I like this example is like if you don't need to borrow a bridge loan or borrow money from your existing home's equity to buy the house you want, and you can qualify for both the house payments, which most people can't. But if you can, there's not any additional expense, which is nice. But you have that big risk of how long can you carry both these house payments?
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. That one was qualified for both homes, but you need a down payment.
No, that one is qualified for both homes, but you have a down payment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the next one is qualified for both homes, but do not have a down payment.
That's correct.
Go ahead and cover that one.
Yeah. So it's a catchphrase, but the catchphrase is a bridge loan. There's a bridge loan is like turned into this thing that it's an encompassing, like they're all the same. There are hundreds of different bridge loans. But here's what a bridge is it's really a way to tap into the equity on your existing home that you're trying to sell. and use it towards the down payment of the home that you're wanting to buy.
Okay.
So cool thing is you don't have to write a contingent offer assuming you qualify for that. So now we've got good terms, so maybe we can get a better price.
Okay. And then number 6?
Number 6 is, well, if I say one more thing on 5 is risk is, and mortgage qualifying for a traditional bridge loan is you've got the new mortgage payment, your existing mortgage payment, and the existing bridge loan payment.
Yeah, so that's
most people, that's more than makes sense. Like that's like, how long could I do that? And most people, it's like not very long.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
6th option is you don't want to carry those payments, or you can't qualify to carry those payments. We have a bridge loan that'll wipe out your existing mortgage.
Okay.
And they'll give you 12 months to sell your house without you having to make any monthly payment on it. Okay. That's actually what I did.
Okay.
As I had a little mortgage on my house. I wiped it out. I got a big chunk and I put it down on the house I wanted to buy, because that kind of ended up being like the end loan I wanted. So I won't have to restructure the mortgage.
Right.
So it worked out really well that way. And what happened is I had 12 months to sell my house. They are charging me interest.
Right. I mean, there's a cost to all of the stuff like this, right?
Yeah. But it isn't, other than we might not make as much money as we wanted to make, there's no like monthly cash flow stress for us.
Okay.
Because we're not making all those payments.
Right.
I'm just making the one payment on my new house.
Right. And then number 7, strong equity, but wants less risk.
Yeah. So if you've got a lot of and all of these things, you kind of have to have equity, right? Mm-hmm. Which most people do. Home prices have gone up so much in the last handful of years. Most people do.
Okay.
But
that's true.
We have a buy before you sell program where essentially they'll write you, and you guys have one, right?
The cash CPO offer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That honestly ends up being, there's a lot of, it's hard to explain just over right now, but we have one going. That lady that was talking about renting her house that I said, is this really the rental you would buy? The answer was no, but this allows her to get the down payment, not have to count both house payments in her debt to income ratio.
Okay. And
then whatever she ends up selling her house for, they essentially just take a fee on top of that. But there's no interest accumulating. Whether it takes a week or 6 months to sell your house, you're not going to pay any more or any less. They just want their fixed fee, which is about 2.5, 3. There's obviously a lot of variables.
Right.
So in this lady's example, it was going to cost her $14,000. That's a lot of money, obviously. Here's the huge benefit, though. They're buying the house they have to have. Her husband has had an illness that is requiring him to be in a wheelchair.
Right.
The house they're in isn't going to be wheelchair. It would be too difficult to modify that house to be wheelchair accessible. So it's like a need.
Yeah.
They found the house that's going to be perfect. That's going to take little renovation to get it how they want.
Which is way important for them.
Way important. They don't even have their house on the market yet. They don't have the cash flow to be making a bunch of house payments. So we ended up putting them together. We haven't closed this, but we're about to. But it's going to allow them to buy the house they want. They're going to have a little money from this that they're not paying payments on, that will use the money because it does need a little bit of renovation. Okay. Once it's renovated, they're going to move in and then they'll sell their house. Nice. They're going to end up paying $14,000 for that convenience, but to me, that's a pretty small price to pay. Also, they might make a little more on selling their house because it's a really nice home, but like they're living in it.
It's easier to sell a home that's not lived in, that you can go in and fix it up, clean it up, stage it. Well, hey, if we're running out of time, if people want to get a hold of you, Chantry, how do they do that?
Just probably Google Chantry, Guild Mortgage.
All right.
If you wanted to text my cell, 435-979-1775, text or call me as well.
All right. And if you want to have a chat with the Larkin Group, just give us a call at the Larkin. Just Google the Larkin Group and you'll find us.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, brother.